Hello there, I'm Tanya Khazanov, and you are listening to Human and Holy. Today we're going to be talking all about Mashiach. The last days of Pesach are known to symbolize Mashiach, the redemption that we are going to experience from our current state in exile. And today I'm going to be sharing a little bit of the Hasidic teachings behind this, the deeper meaning of these last days of Pesach, symbolizing our redemption from exile, how we can incorporate and experience this through the Moshiach Seudah, which is a meal that many have at the closing of the holiday, in order to really ingest and experience and eat the food of Mashiach and what that has to teach us about our own experience right now of moving towards Geula, what it means to have the audacity to hope in such a hopeless time, to hope for and move towards a state of redemption when this world will truly be filled with the revealed light of our Creator. So the Baal Shem Tov was the first one to institute this concept of the Moshiach Seudah and to really highlight and awaken the connection of the last days of Pesach, and specifically the last day of Pesach, Acharon Shel Pesach, to the coming of Mashiach, the future redemption. And the beginning, the first days of Pesach are all about our redemption from Egypt, and our last days are about Mashiach. And this is not just a Hasidic teaching, but the Haftorah of that day, of the last day of Pesach, is literally about what is going to be when Mashiach comes. V'nachal alav Ruach Hashem, that the Spirit of God will be upon the land, that the wolf will lie with the lamb, that we will experience this true revelation of the knowledge of Hashem across the land and across the world. Now, the redemption from Egypt and the redemption from our current exile are not two separate things. They're the beginning and the end of one process. And within the redemption from Egypt was birthed all of the redemptions that would come after it. And the Baal Shem Tov teaches us that just as the Jews camped 42 times in the desert, they left Egypt, but then they had to camp 42 times before they entered into Eretz Yisrael. So too, every single person has 42 journeys within their own life. We are born into this world. That is the first one. That is our leaving of Egypt. But then there are these 42 journeys that we go through, that we experience, that allows us to fulfill our soul's mission in this world. So too, in our experience of exile, there is this deepening of the revelation of God in this world until we can finally come to the final redemption when God is going to be completely revealed in the world. I personally have a complicated relationship with Mashiach, and I always have, really trying to wrap my head around what it means and going in and out of this total belief and feeling like there's something naive about it and not understanding how much agency to have around this topic and how much I'm just passively waiting, and really just a big exploration of this topic in my own life. So I'm so excited to be exploring the topic of Mashiach, especially with everything that we are currently going through, because I think that the belief in Mashiach, which is a core tenet in Judaism, is more relevant than ever. What does it mean to hold up this ideal image of a time when godliness is going to be revealed, when the wolf will lie with the lamb, when peace will reign, when all of us will really experience the fact that we were created in the image of God, that we will love each other, and that we'll just live in this beautiful state of the world as we all believe that things are intended to be. So let's talk a little bit about that process of moving towards Mashiach and what these last days of Pesach, of Passover, have to teach us and offer us in terms of our own moving forward towards that time that we all so sorely want. When we talk about the 42 times that the Jews camped before entering into the land of Israel, we speak about how every single time they camped, they drew down their godly awareness to a deeper level to prepare them for what was going to come next. And within our own lives and our own moving towards redemption, we have a similar experience. We go along these many journeys of deepening our understanding and our connection to our Judaism and to the understanding of God in our lives. And each time, we don't just move closer to a state of redemption, but we ourselves change. We ourselves shift. We ourselves transform. And often when we think about exile and redemption, we think about moving from one state of being to another state of being, that the world will shift, that something new will come upon the land. But what we sometimes fail to remember or recognize is that the real shift is going to happen internally. And that is a process that we do in exile. In order for Mashiach to come into this world, we have to be shifted and prepared and ready to receive the revelation of God's light in this world. So there's an expansion that has to happen, in exile, an attunement, an emotional awareness and connection to the wisdom and knowledge of Torah and God in this world. So every journey that we take, every juncture that we are on, is not just taking us one step closer to the promised land, but is actually expanding our inner worlds, taking us one step deeper, closer to God, expanding our minds and our hearts to the possibility of what it truly means to be connected to and united with our Creator, to really be tapped into the truth of reality without the veneer of concealment. And this is something that we do through our own process. It's an internal shift that's happening happening, an internal awareness that we are reaching through our own 42 journeys. And the reason why I find this teaching so meaningful is because I think that when we get caught up in the checklist, the linear process towards redemption, and we're like, well, what's going to happen? Like a miracle is just going to come upon the land. And we fail to remember our inner world's role in the global state of the world, and how our own inner expansion and work and divine service and ability to be connected internally to the oneness of the world and the oneness of all of creation, and to differentiate between what's holy and unholy in this world, that internal expansion is what is allowing this world to be receptive to the godly energy of Mashiach, of the messianic time, when the entire world will be filled with the Spirit of Hashem, when the wolf will lie with the lamb, when there will be world peace. Like, what is world peace and how can we experience world peace? Our own inner slow expansion through each of those journeys of our life is how we prepare this world and our own homes and our own beings for the revelation of godliness. Because exile is not a punishment for sin, but it's an opportunity to truly elevate the material of this world. When we were in Gan Eden, we saw the inherent holiness and godliness of this world. And then God banished his light from the world. He banished that revealed experience of a creator. And we draw it back through our own journeys, through our own processes. We're slowly bringing back the light and energy of godliness and Hashem into this world. I read an interesting statement in the Talmud in Sanhedrin about Mashiach that really struck me, which was that Mashiach will come when there is no more truth in the world. And it struck me because it does feel like we live in a post-truth era. It feels like we live in a world where everything is subjective and there's no such thing as objective truth. And it all depends on how you look at it. And my interpretation of this statement from the Talmud, I think from a hopeful point of view, is that we actually create space for God when we live in a post-truth era, when we live in a world that does not have truth. And the reason why I think that living in a post-truth world is a preparation ground for Mashiach is that very often our tight knuckles on our perspective of truth is often what blocks us from really receiving Hashem and the expansiveness of Hashem's existence and presence in this world, in our lives, in the Torah. And that narrow, restricted view of Hashem's expansive, endless existence in this world can often create walls that do not allow God to truly penetrate our lives and our experiences. And if we talk about Geula as this internal shift, this internal expansiveness, this internal ability to hold the joy and delight and beauty of Hashem's existence in this world, then we also have to soften our grip on our perception of how things should be, of what things are, of our one perspective on the world, and make space not only for other people's, but for God's. Because sometimes we begin to worship our own perspectives on Judaism, and those become their own religion. And I'm holding on so tightly to my perspective of what it means to be a good Jew and what it means to be a good person, and there's no space to expand and to soften into what is in my life, into the invitations Hashem is giving me for my personal growth, into the true expansion I could go on. A journey means transformation. When I'm going on 42 journeys, I am transforming. I am becoming a new being. And in becoming a new being and truly creating space for Hashem in my life, that creates space for Mashiach, for divine revelation to truly be experienced in this world. So when I think about a post-truth era, I also think about the post-truth era in our own lives and enter into the era of God, the era of Hashem, not worshiping my own perspective of Yiddishkeit, but being able to really hold and lean into the expansiveness of Torah, of Hashem's existence in this world, and what it would truly look like for me to experience the divinity within every single person that I meet, the divinity within myself and how I would show up in the world, the divinity within every single thing, physical thing that I encounter in this world, and how I could reveal its divine intent in this world. So we really develop this transformation that is messianic in nature. Now, in the Moshiach Seudah, in the feast at the end of the holiday, where we drink wine and we wash and we eat matzah and food and we eat the food of Mashiach, the Lubavitch Rebbe explains in a talk that's given on this topic that we are actually ingesting the food of Mashiach. And through ingesting the food of Mashiach, we become transformed. We become open to the energy of Mashiach and Geula in this world. And obviously, the energy of Achron Shel Pesach has always been messianic. So why did it take the Baal Shem Tov to really reveal and institute this idea that we're really going to close the holiday, end the holiday, with the real understanding that we are being led, we are walking, we are moving towards redemption. And it's only a matter of time if we continue to move in this direction, if we continue to expand, that the redemption is going to come. So there are two reasons that are given, and one is that when there's a greater darkness in this world, you need to have a greater light. And another one, which I think you can really experience through the eating that happens at the Moshiach Seudah, is that as we get closer and closer to the time of Mashiach, we actually experience a taste of redemption. We experience the flavor of redemption in our lives. And this is what we do at the Moshiach Seudah, which is we're eating the food of Geula. We're eating the food of Mashiach. We're eating the food of revealed godliness in this world. And that internally transforms us. And if we shift that to the daily life of a Jew, we have this opportunity every single time we make a blessing, every single time we eat with godly intention and awareness, to literally transform our bodies by ingesting divine revelation. Everything in this world is godly. And when I eat a piece of food, which is literally godliness in physical matter, and I'm able to have that divine, holy intention, and I eat it, my internal being becomes transformed. And that's the state of Mashiach, where I will eat and I will see the divinity within this food that I'm eating, that I will swallow, that I will make a blessing, that I will use the energy with intention. This is a messianic experience of the world, of the physical world, is this divine revelation in every single thing that we do, experience, touch, move through. The food that we eat becomes a part of who we are. The food of the Moshiach Seudah becomes a part of who we are. At every single moment in our life, we have this opportunity to reveal the divinity in everything that surrounds us and everything that we encounter, everything that we touch, everything that we ingest. And that act transforms us so that we expand, so that we can contain the energy of Mashiach in this world. And that is when Mashiach is going to come. So the Mashiach that we're talking about on Acharon Shel Pesach, on the last day of Pesach, this extension of our redemption from Egypt, the first redemption that we experienced where we saw open miracles from God, is about our own expansion and ability to receive the divinity that Hashem has available to us, the oneness, the beauty, the awe, the love, the connection that we have to each other. We expand and rise to meet this new reality. And when we do, that is when it will come. When we have truly ingested the food of Mashiach, the food of the Moshiach Seudah, the awareness of God in our internal selves, that is when Mashiach is going to be available to us and when we are going to truly be able to receive a revelation of the divine light in this world. So one year when I was in middle school, the Moshiach Seudah came around, as it always does, and I decided to really lean into it. I'm going to do the Moshiach Seudah this year. I'm going to believe. And I really got it in my head that Mashiach was coming. And I sat there and I was drinking the wine. We drank 4 cups of wine to represent, the 4 cups of redemption that we do at the Seder. And I'm eating my matzah and I'm singing the Nigunim and I'm really leaning into the experience with such a pure, complete belief that before it got dark, Mashiach was going to be there. And as the sun was setting, I had this feeling of okay, it's just a matter of time, it's happening. And I remember feeling giddy and anxious and Mashiach is coming. And I was really leaned into that belief. And the sun is setting, and finally it's dark. And everyone starts cleaning up. They're making Havdalah. They're closing the holiday. The Moshiach Seudah was over, the holiday was over, and now everyone's turning back to chametz. I remember feeling so let down and also a really strong emotion of embarrassment. And I went to the bathroom and I cried. And I felt so let down by God, so shocked, so tricked. I was isn't the Moshiach Seudah all about greeting Mashiach? And I tried it. I tried and I fully leaned into this belief. Even now I'm saying I tried it, but then I remember really just being oh my God, Mashiach is coming, and really truly feeling that. And I'm sure that you might have experienced things like that, different junctures where Mashiach is coming. I know that people have had different experiences, certain events or facts or things that were happening around in the world, and people really leaned into this belief, and the Mashiach didn't come. And I was reflecting on this story recently because I was thinking about the vulnerability of hope in such a dark and difficult world, and how often it is so much easier to reject hope wholesale and not to go near a belief in Mashiach in a very real, visceral way, where I truly believe that my actions are moving towards something bigger, that there is this opportunity and that there is this reality of divinity that I am moving towards. Because hope is such a vulnerable thing. And when our hope is not realized, there can be that feeling of embarrassment and naivete, and I can't believe I let myself go there. But I'm entering into these last days of Pesach with, I dare to hope. I dare to hope that this belief that there is going to be a reality where the divinity of this world is so revealed that I can truly experience the Creator in every single moment experience of my life, that I can see the divinity within others, within myself, within the events of the world, that I could see it all unfolding with Hashem's master plan in hand. I dare to hope that Mashiach is coming, that we are on the precipice of something, that yes, we have been through so many journeys and still Mashiach has not yet come. Yes, we have been walking through the desert for so long. Yes, we have been here before at Acharon Shel Pesach. Yes, this is not our first time and I don't know what God's timeline is, but I dare to hope. I dare to believe. I dare to imagine, just as I did when I was a young adolescent, before my heart was crushed, before I came out of that naive bubble, before I saw the horrors of the world, before my hope fell time and time again, I go back to that inner child, that inner belief, that naivete. I choose my naivete again. I choose to hope. I choose to enter into these last days of Pesach with a real hope and a belief in Mashiach's coming. And I'm going to eat that food of Mashiach at the closing meal of Pesach. And I'm going to ingest it in my body. I'm going to ingest the messianic energy of that feast, the divinity within this world. And I'm going to expand my own internal self so that I can be a vessel to receive the Mashiach that we are all hoping for and want. And even though I don't know God's timeline and I don't know when or how, I believe. I am choosing to believe. I am choosing to hope. And I keep thinking about that, the vulnerability of hope, daring to hope. Do I dare to hope? Do I let myself go there? Because usually at the Moshiach Seudah, I kind of try to block it out because I don't want to go there. I don't want the emotional roller coaster of believing and being let down. But instead of creating my own timeline of when Mashiach's coming and watching the sun setting, can I believe that this is all leading somewhere? That my expansion, my eating of the Moshiach Seudah, that this revelation that we are experiencing in small and big ways in our own personal lives and collective lives, that this is leading us to a time when Nachal Alav Ruach Hashem, when the Spirit of God will be upon this earth. Can I believe? Can I hope? I believe with perfect, vulnerable, shaky, childish, naive, hopeful, determined, courageous hope that Mashiach is coming and that we are at the end of an exile, that we have walked many journeys together and we continue to walk together, and that each of these journeys is transforming us, transforming who we are as people, transforming the reality of the world, and is creating fertile ground for Hashem to be revealed in a very real way in our individual and collective lives. Wishing you a beautiful rest of the holiday, and I hope you can tap into this energy of redemption in these last and final days of Pesach to truly allow yourself to enter into a hopeful and determined and expanded state where your personal journeys in your life are truly leading to a more revealed expression of godliness in this world. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you loved it, and we'll talk next week. Bye.